Before Stephen Harper, the West wanted in. Now, after 4 years of Justin Trudeau, does the West really want out? Well, the Liberals won a strong minority on election night. They got wiped out in Alberta and in Saskatchewan. Suddenly, the term Wexit, Western exit, started trending between the rise of the Bloc in Quebec and the growing sense of Western alienation in the prairies. How will Justin Trudeau handle a country divided? Is a prairie exit really on the horizon, or is it just political bluster? To dig deeper, let's bring in two well-known Western voices. Alison Redford is the former Premier of Alberta, and Nenshi is the Mayor of Calgary. They're both in Calgary. Great to have both of you on the program. And let me start with Alison Redford. What message was sent from Alberta and Saskatchewan to Justin Trudeau on election night?
Well, I think that what you heard Premier Kenney say is something that Albertans have been saying for some time. It's certainly what we used to talk about when I was Premier. There is this sense that even though we're committed to the project of Canada, that there is a disconnect between understanding what the economics of Alberta are and how it contributes to the country. And so I think Premier Kenney's comments from the top of the show are very similar to what we're hearing on the streets in Alberta. You know, the polling in Alberta still shows that you know, over 65% of people are very committed to Canada as a federal project. But that doesn't take away from the fact that there's an incredible amount of frustration that the rest of the country still hasn't linked together the fact that economic growth in Alberta and getting product to market is what allows the rest of the country to thrive as well.
Yeah,
and so my sense is that we want to partner and be a real partner, but there has to be some back and forth.
Well, let's talk about that. Now, Nenshi, I'm intrigued how you read this Western anger, because you know, there's always something lost in translation as the voices west go east, and sometimes vice versa. The Liberals were, I talked to some of them, they're so confused. They said, wait, we bought a $4.5 billion pipeline. We're not stopping the construction. The courts are stopping it, and yet we got blamed as if we're somehow against it. What, can you kind of calibrate how deep this anger goes, how personal it is?
It's very real, it's very frustrating, and it's very deep. Now, of course, there are people who are talking about Wexit because, you know, Brexit is going so very well, and small landlocked countries are the most successful in the world. Yeah, none of those things are true. But the frustration and anger is real, and it's important for people to understand that. You know, our electoral map today is the same as it was before 2015. It's not uncommon. We, before the 2015 election, we had not elected any Liberals in Calgary since 1968. That said, it is something a little different now, stoked by loud voices, sometimes used by politicians to their advantage, but it is a problem. And I think you're exactly right, Evan. It's because people don't understand the very real concerns that Albertans have. You know, a lot of folks say, oh, Albertans are climate change deniers, or Albertans are just whiny, they're rich anyway. And I don't think they really get it. You know, for many, many, many years, this province has been the economic engine of the country. And revenues from taxpayers in this province have funded most of the major projects across this country. And yeah, sometimes we complain about it, but secretly, Albertans, I think, are real proud of the fact that we have been able to be successful, being able to support the Canadian family, support people coming here. The challenge now is that the economy is firing on all cylinders almost everywhere in the country. You know, unemployment is at record lows, except in Saskatchewan and Alberta. And suddenly we, who are used to being the economic engine, feel that we're sputtering. The country cannot succeed. The federal budget can never be balanced without a successful Alberta and Saskatchewan. And yet we feel that the tone, the reflexive tone that's being taken about what's going on here doesn't really reflect our very, very real concerns. Every one of us knows someone who's been out of work for a long time, people who are very nervous about their own economic future, and that is somehow being translated into, we support the oil and gas industry at all costs, and we're climate change deniers, and you can kind of ignore us and fly over us. And I think that's where the frustration comes from.
So Alison Redford, if you're Justin Trudeau, how do you calibrate what he's trying to do? He says he supports a pipeline. I know there's a lot of distrust with Justin Trudeau. People don't buy it. He says he also supports climate change. He has no representation there. What does he do now to repair that and maybe decrease the real anger that we're hearing from Alberta?
Well, I think that when the Prime Minister decided to deal with Trans Mountain, that he was taking a very long-term view. That's sometimes hard for people to understand because they want shorter-term solutions. But Everything that we need to do right now in Canada is about understanding that the issues that the mayor has just raised, whether it's around First Nations reconciliation, climate change, pipeline, economic growth, jobs, are all part of a conversation where they all have to come together and fit. Not just so that we intellectually understand what it means, but so that we can actually come to a table, a negotiating table, and have a conversation that isn't about regional politics or party politics, but is about how we make this economy work. This economy that is very dependent on natural resources that are based in Alberta and in Saskatchewan. And there are very good models that have been used around the world. Holland has a very important structure in place that allows labor unions and politicians and teachers and students and environmentalists and industry to come to the table and make joint decisions about how to move forward, still understanding that their economy is based on unconventional resources.
Nenshi, I got to put this to you. The Prime Minister actually mentioned you twice by name in his first press conference, post-election, duly noted. Many people are saying, though you're the mayor of Calgary, he's tapping you as a special advisor in some kind of role. A, has the Prime Minister called you and asked you to do anything? B, would you consider it?
That was a very polite way of asking that question, Evan. So I'll answer the question you didn't ask. No, no job has been offered, nor no job has been contemplated. Though I am probably, it's wrong that I'm enjoying all this speculation because it's so silly. But
sorry,
I did get a call
just
from the
wait
Prime
a second.
Minister,
you would not contemplate anything. I just want to make that on you would not consider working in a special advisory role or joining the federal Liberal government as a representative in Alberta. I just want to make sure I'm clear on that.
I love everyone asking me this question. Nothing has been offered. It's purely hypothetical. But let me tell you that I did have a great conversation with the Prime Minister on Wednesday morning. We had, as we politicians say, a firm and frank exchange of views. But I'll tell you, I appreciated the fact that he highlighted that his challenge in Alberta and Saskatchewan is the #1 thing on his mind right now. And I appreciated getting a call, 36 hours after the polls closed, to have that conversation. And I know he's talked to many other people as well. And fundamentally, we talked about how he is going to make sure that both in his own political staff as well as politically, that he's hearing voices from Alberta and the West, that he understands what is going on the ground here. We floated a number of ideas of ways that he could get even more plugged in with people out here, because fundamentally, I'm willing to help, and I think most Albertans are willing to help. The electoral result was not what most Albertans voted for, but we have this government now, and it's critical that we have Alberta issues on the table. And of course, the pipeline has to get built. Of course, we need to re-examine Bill C-69, which my Premier calls the No More Pipelines bill, but is actually much more dangerous than that. It's going to make all kinds of national infrastructure much more difficult to build. And so I think we are in a time of reconciliation in many ways, and I suspect we will be able to work together in a way that is useful. And certainly I'm always on the other end of the phone, happy to help in any way.
All right, that was a very political answer. I got 10 seconds here. Alison, Redford, just out of interest, would you be open to joining in some capacity a federal government to help give representation or voice in Alberta? Have you been asked?
I have not been asked. I am happy to help in any way. This is something that I think Canadians have been thinking about for a long time. And I think the key is that there have to be a lot of voices at the table. So, the mayor has spoken quite eloquently about how we feel in the West, but also I think how we feel as Canadians. And I think that's exciting. I hope the Prime Minister takes up the opportunity. My sense is he will. I think he has a real passion for making sure that this can all work. And if there's something I can do, I'm happy to help.
All right, there's an offer on the table. Alison, Redford, Naheed, Nenshi, both of you, I really appreciate hearing from both of you and listening to what you have to say. Thanks so much. Got to leave it there, though.